Welcome to Dead Talk Live. I am your host, Viz. Our guests today are director Tyler MacIntyre and writer Michael Kennedy, whose new film, It's a Wonderful Knife, is premiering today, November 10th, in theaters nationwide. Michael, Tyler, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on this film, which, like I told you before, I really enjoyed. How are you guys doing today?
Doing
Good.
great. Thanks so much for having
Yeah.
us.
Oh,
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
thank you for coming on here, and let's get right to it. Michael, let's start with you. You wrote this film. What inspired you to take a Christmas classic like It's a Wonderful Life and make it into this fun, entertaining slasher horror film?
There's a couple things. I was looking to write a Christmas horror movie after Freaky, and in lockdown, I was wanting to write a Christmas movie. I was wanting to write something with a little bit of fantasy and happiness too. So I started thinking about, the way I worked on Freaky was taking an old comedy. So I started thinking like, what are some of these old Christmas movies that I could maybe play with? And I started thinking about how actually my dad loved It's a Wonderful Life. It was
Hmm.
his favorite movie. And I started just thinking about him and how much that movie meant to him and our family. And he had passed away in 2018. So I started reminiscing about him and started reminiscing about my time on Freaky. I loved every aspect of making Freaky. Working with Chris Landon was a dream come true, and just had such a great time on that film that I kind of wanted to play in the same space.
Uh-huh.
So then when I sat down to watch It's a Wonderful Life to kind of study it, even though I know it really well, I was like, yeah, I think this is a good template to make a fun, weirdly heartwarming slasher movie.
It
And I
worked.
wanted it. Yeah, it worked weirdly.
Now, Tyler, you're the director. At which point did you and Michael hook up and you became the director of this project?
Yeah, I mean, I met Michael like a little bit after Freaky came out, and because I think people were drawing sort of parallels between a movie I made called Tragedy Girls and Freaky, and they kind of had sort of similar kind of games going on, and that they're sort of kind of energetic slasher movies, and kind of setting up different types of genre expectations in that sense. And but then Michael had already written the script and had been kind of working on it for a while and had brought on Divide and Conquer, who I knew a little bit, who are some of the producers who did like Megan and like the Black
Hmm.
Christmas remake, and they worked together on Freaky. And I've been sort of trying to find a project to do with those guys, and then and Seth Kaplan as well, who is one of the other kind of lead producers on it. And so they sent me the script and invited me to kind of meet on it, and I just kind of fell in love with it. Like, a lot of the stuff that I write tends to be pretty cynical, and
Hmm.
so I really, welcome the chance to do something that had a more sincere kind of heart to it, and then kind of, and there's something fun about trying to make a horror movie that kind of ends up in a positive place.
Yeah.
Not no spoilers, I guess, but the there's like an uplifting element to it that I thought was a kind of a fun challenge to do with a horror story, and it kind of would allow me to use certain tools that I already had, but then also kind of build in other ways, and so we started working together and started sharpening a lot of like the satire of it, and kind of building out the sequences and kind of collaborating on the type of performers we wanted, and then it led to a pretty fun kind of collaboration over a couple of years.
Absolutely. Now, Michael, Tyler made an interesting point. I mean, I personally believe if you're going to make a holiday horror film, I think it should be exactly like It's a Wonderful Knife. It's fun. You don't want to be depressed and come out there like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Now, compared to It's a Wonderful Life, there are a lot of parallels to It's a Wonderful Life to this film. What was one of the themes from It's a Wonderful Life that you wanted to grab with this film, build upon, and make it sort of the fun horror slasher movie type?
Well, the biggest thing is, George Bailey doesn't see what his life is like or what the town of Bedford Falls is like without him until like the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first thing I knew I wanted to do different, was really bring it essentially at the end of Act One, so that it could essentially lead you to the end of the movie
Yeah.
and play in that world a little bit. It's a Wonderful Life is mostly a life story that ends up in the place it ends up, and I didn't want it to be Winnie's life story. I wanted it to be really a moment in time of her life, of going from hero to really a tragic figure in a lot of ways. So I knew I wanted to make that the centerpiece of the story in a much bigger way.
Uh-huh.
And that also led me to some It's a Wonderful Life stuff, where we then got to upend like the slasher convention that kind of started with Scream, where like you have a kill in the first 10 minutes and you don't find out who the killer is until about 2 hours later. So we got to upend that by, we reveal the killer in the first 15 minutes of the movie, which is different. And the first 15 minutes almost plays like a mini slasher movie. So those were like the two biggest things I was really excited to like kind of tweak and toy with and make my own.
And kudos to that, because that threw me off too. I'm a lifelong horror fan, and when I saw that, and I'm like, that came up even before the title of the film popped up. So,
Yeah,
so
and,
what's going on here? So
yeah, it's fun because it kind of plays with your expectations a little bit. Then you don't kind of know where you're going to be going. And then I've also seen a lot of people who haven't seen the movie yet being like, they spoil who the killer is in the trailer. And I'm like, just wait till you watch the movie.
Exactly.
Like,
you don't know. You haven't seen any of it yet. Now,
Yeah.
Tyler, let's talk about the killer's costume. Great, simple, but very creepy. The White Angel. Brilliant. Was it a collaboration between you and Michael? How did you guys settle on the killer's look?
Yeah. There was some cues in the like the idea of having like an all white killer that is an angel, and kind of like bringing a little bit of that imagery kind of to it was in the script, and then kind of figuring out like, well, what does that mean? Like it was a bit of a took some doing, and so we worked to look at a lot of references and stuff like that, trying to figure out but we essentially settled on the idea that like he's kind of a little bit like an angel tree topper, like those
Yeah.
sorts of things. And then figuring out like, because a lot of those have, especially the vintage ones, have these kind of porcelain faces that are featureless, and they're kind of eerie, like when they're kind of in the darkness, so we started kind of drilling down on that, and then started working with our production designer Tiana and Matea, who was our costume designer, and to try and figure out like, well, how do we kind of do this? And it became pretty apparent that this, even though he's an angel, he shouldn't have wings, because they'd either be like sort of like a cape, incredible, like get caught on stuff.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, because of the type of stunts in the movie, he sort of should be lean and quick, and so we ended up trying a bunch of different materials, and kind of settling on this sort of shape that kind of has like a hooded figure shape that's like, reminiscent of something like Scream, or I know he did last summer, because like we don't want somebody who was like too big, and then we ended up being able to incorporate the wings into like the knife design. It has this very like ornate kind of dagger to it, and it has these kind of winged hilt, which is kind of made itself into a lot of the marketing. And then we were able to work with like the fabrication place for in the props for making like the mask in a way that it still kind of had this shiny white surface, but like the hero version of that was like extremely difficult, if not impossible, to see through.
Yeah.
And so the stunt people often had to kind of like coordinate things in a way that they could sort of learn the moves kind of blind, and then rehearse it, and knowing that their visibility would be reduced. And then we had certain moments where we would like add or erase the eyes digitally and things like that. But it was trying to kind of a lot of people had a lot of good ideas, and it was a bit of a group effort, but I'm glad we kind of landed into a place that I think a lot of the marketing's taking a cue from it, and people seem to be responding to it really well.
Exactly. A featureless face. It's simple, but it's still very, very creepy. Like an emotionless face. A good example is the Michael Myers mask. It's devoid of all emotion, but yet it's very, very creepy. Now, Michael, at any point during the writing of this script, because this film does lean on It's a Wonderful Life, were you afraid of any negative pushback from touching a beloved American classic Christmas movie at all?
No, I mean, I expect people, I know some people just won't like what we're doing. Just, they don't have a taste for
Yeah.
kind of movies, which is fine with me. And I didn't get any pushback from anyone we worked with on it. But yeah, I mean, I expect people to kind of either love it or hate it, quite frankly. I think Freaky's success was a little unexpected, quite frankly. Like Chris and I honestly didn't expect the reaction we got to that from
Yeah.
people. So yeah, I'm okay with any pushback.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like
It's
anyone
fun.
talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I like people just talking about the movie, you know.
exactly. I think it's
Yeah.
great. Now, Tyler, Jane Whittup, Jess McLeod are the two main leads. They had really good on-screen chemistry with each other. What stood out for you in their auditions that made you say, as a director, okay, this is Winnie and Bernie?
Yeah, I mean, Winnie was a lot easier to find than Bernie. Essentially, we found Jane Whittup quite early. They were on a list of kind of performers that I sort of was hoping to work with on something eventually, because I'd seen them in Yellow Jackets and they had a
Mm-hmm.
really kind of fun sort of part in that first season. And then we were making kind of these long lists and then kind of reaching out to a very small number of performers to see if they read for it. And then Jane did just a tremendous read of the kind of the first scene where their character ends up in this magical world, and we kind of thought that, like, oh well, that's like a good performance, because they seem to really understand that it's emotional, but it's not too serious, and like got the comedy of it, and it was just very easy to track. And so we kind of decided, like, well, let's just commit to Jane. And after we met them, that seemed like a really kind of obvious choice. And then we're able to kind of build the younger cast kind of around them. But then it took a
Yeah.
lot longer to find Bernie. Like, once we kind of had dates and everything like that, we were looking like on both sides of the border, because we shot in Vancouver, Canada. And so we were looking in America at maybe bringing somebody in, as well as Vancouver local. And considered like hundreds. I mean, I watched probably 500 tapes, and a lot of different reads on it, and like researched a lot of people. And then Jess McLeod had a really strong read, but just a very strange kind of energy to them.
Mm-hmm.
Just a very like doesn't seem super strange like at a glance, but then once they start talking, they were
Yeah.
brought in a lot of very quick kind of verbal bursts, and this sort of like innate kind of awkwardness, and like making dialogue that was not awkward really awkward. And it was just like a very fun kind of sort of self-conscious kind of like approach to it, in a way that we hadn't really thought of the character. And then once I kind of met them, I was like, oh, like, this energy is going to complement what Jane's bringing, because like Jane is so like straight, like, and has this kind of certainty to them, and stuff, and kind of a breeziness to them. And then once we got them in a room and started kind of doing rehearsal, and kind of going through the key scenes, it kind of became apparent. They're like, oh, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, and they have a little bit more sizzle than we were anticipating. And so like a lot of the kind of subtle stuff we were kind of working on became more explicit, and they really became kind of fast friends, and would had a ton of ideas, and were very supportive of each other. And so, like, during the production, it really kind of changed the shape of like the movie itself.
Now, Michael, I loved what you did with Bernie's character in the end. We're not going to give any spoilers out, but the way her character ends up, so on. I have to ask you, people don't understand what this question's about until they watch the movie. Hopefully, they'll come back and watch this interview to see your answer. But was that your original ending for Bernie, or did you change that?
It's hard to say without spoiling anything, but everything that happens with Bernie was the plan.
Okay.
And as Tyler just spoke, we found the other element that happens at the end with her and Winnie
Yeah.
during filming.
Okay. Okay,
That makes sense.
that makes sense to me. I've seen it. So,
And,
guys,
and we
it'll
did
make
try
a
some,
lot of
like,
sense to you guys when you come back and watch this after you see the movie. Now, Tyler, Justin Long, the antagonist, versatile actor, longtime actor. Uh, Man, you guys with the makeup, you really made him look different with the teeth and the look. And his versatility as an actor really comes through. What were your thoughts of his portrayal as the antagonist in this film, which fans are not really used to seeing him in the antagonist role?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of hoping to go a bit big with the villain, like, and so we considered a lot. I mean, Justin was kind of in the discussion early on, but like it took us a long time to figure out like when we were shooting and like who would be best for it. And we went through a lot of different iterations of that character. Sometimes he was older, sometimes he was younger, sometimes we tried a couple drafts where that character was female, and it took us a long time, and eventually circled back around to Justin, when the availability kind of became apparent, and after we'd sort of established his younger brother, Sean Deppner, and so it ended up kind of being sort of working out because Justin was already in town, kind of shooting Goosebumps, and so we were able to sort of work things
Mhm.
around his schedule. But yeah, like he came in with very, very strong ideas. I think because he has a like he's cursed with this like boy next door good looks that he just
Yeah.
can't shake, and he I think is getting to the point where like he could embrace those kind of like different kind of middle-aged actor looks, and as we talked a lot about like the like a Michael Douglas from Wall Street sort of jerk, but like kind of that like a small town version of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we were taking a cue from like kind of like the like the Hallmark villain plots, like the idea of like it's always like a real estate scheme of some sort, like and things like that are like trying to so kind of moving these ideas around, and then talking a lot about this sort of like kind of artifice that this character has, and a lot of the ideas about like how he looks kind of came from that, like kind of a spray tan sort of thing. Like we weren't trying to get too Trumpy with it, but like he has this very well coiffed kind of hair, and like
The
these
bright teeth.
yeah, and the, like blue eyes, and like, you're so used to seeing Justin with dark eyes, and then so
Yeah.
even in real life, like with blue contacts, it's like whoa, like it's a tough, it's nothing to get used to. And so then he had like a very specific voice that he was working on and stuff like that, and so we just like for me as a director it was more about trying to shape the kind of fountain of good ideas that he was kind of bringing to the table, and making sure that it didn't kind of not sort of the tone of the film, but thankfully we're kind of we had a big ceiling because of the type of kind of supernatural movie it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Michael, were you happy with how Justin Long's character at the end on the final take when you saw the final product on how he
Yeah.
came through on the screen?
Yeah, I remember I really was thrilled, and I no, now I'm like there's no one else that could have done this.
Yeah.
No one else I don't think would have attempted it. When he first was pitching us the idea of doing this unfettered capitalist asshole with a touch of preacher quality to him, with the look of Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Not sure if you're familiar with Joel
Yeah.
Osteen.
Yeah.
Was kind of his template. I remember being like, what the fuck is he like talking about? Then when I like heard the Joel Osteen part, like when I heard that part, I knew exactly what he was going for.
Uh-huh.
And it comes across really well. I've seen a ton of reviews just calling out his performance as being like fascinatingly unhinged in all the best ways. Um, so yeah, it was definitely something I never expected, but now I couldn't imagine the movie without it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Tyler, what I thought one of the biggest character differentials between the two realities was the mother, Judy Carruthers. Uh, Vastly different between the two realities. Is that how you wanted it? And she did a great job portraying both realities. Uh, why was that character altered so much and so affected by the events of the film?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, no spoilers, but like essentially they've gone through a loss, like,
Hmm.
and so when they encounter their parents, or when we encounter Winnie's parents in the alternate reality, like they've both been through a fair amount of tragedy. Like the town itself has been through a lot of tragedy, and so we kind of have these discussions about like how where is every character like in the kind of good world and the bad world, and that was a discussion I had with every actor, like kind of like what elements are changing, like, and some people are a little bit kind of like the shadow versions of themselves, and then like Bernie's in the center where it kind of the same in both places, like, and it is unchanged by this, but like is even kind of fighting the good fight, and just people are not are Winnie sees it in the one reality now that has perspective. And but whereas Judy, like, definitely, like, Aaron Boyce came in with a lot of ideas of like, in this very dark place, like, it just happened to catch her in the middle of a drunk stupor. Like, it's a very kind of fun space to be in, and I think kind of the opposite of what Aaron's often asked to do. And that was, a big thing that we were trying to do, is like, we're trying to use Joel McHale against type,
Yeah.
and like, Justin Long a bit against type, and trying to give those opportunities to actors who you make, maybe kind of fun to play other ways. And I think, Aaron's a good example of somebody who like came in with a ton of ideas about how to do it, and what the light and dark versions of this look like.
Yeah.
And it, like, did a lot of the pre-work, and then it was just easy to kind of slot in and work with the ensemble we were building.
I want to thank you guys so much. For our audience, the movie is called It's a Wonderful Knife. Now, it is a Shudder original, but it is premiering today, November 10th, in theaters
Yeah, it's in a
nationwide.
thousand screens across
Yeah,
the country.
it's
Yeah.
nationwide. So
Yeah.
check your local listing. This is a fun slasher holiday film. You will definitely love this film. I want to thank our guest, director Tyler MacIntyre, writer Michael Kennedy, for coming on here and sharing just a little bit about their
Thank you.
experience. Guys, I wish you the best of luck with the film. I want to thank our audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Michael, Tyler, and myself, stay safe and stay walking. Bye, everybody.